What's up, JEFusion fans? This is Philip and welcome back to another video. So this is actually our first time reviewing a film on this channel, and as you may already see on the title, we are reviewing Kamen Rider Saber Trio of Deep Sin. Now, this film is supposed to be marketed as the conclusion to the Kamen Rider Saber saga. So this is basically where the actual story of Kamen Rider Saber ends. So, uh, what what does this film or what's with this film, and is it gonna be good or is it gonna be bad? Now, at this point, it's been actually about a month since the movie came out, so I actually decided to give it time. I wanted to give you guys time to watch it before I decided to make this review. Although, just in case, I will at least promise that there would be no major spoilers, but I probably will talk about some minor points of the movie just to give this video more detail. So, I guess you don't have to worry so much about spoilers here. So I will still say that you should probably go watch the movie for yourselves, and make your own opinions based on that. So I think, uh, yeah. Anyways, let's just move on with the video. So as we already noticed, so the trio refers to Toma, Rintaro, and Kento. And why is it called the trio of deep sin? Or why is this sin focused on the three of them? Now, there's actually this thing with tokusatsu shows in general, right? So, at least with Kamen Rider, if we focus on it for a bit, as much as possible, the riders, are able to fight without causing much damage. Let's say compared to Super Sentai and Ultraman, especially Ultraman. So when Super Sentai, when we see the battles, with giant robots, in Ultraman they have to grow into giants each and every time they fight. So there's going to be a lot of collateral damage, and more often than not, people are gonna get injured at the very least. And well, Kamen Rider Saber's heroes and villains are generally human sized. Well, the scale of destruction that could happen sometimes could be catastrophic, to say the least. So this is where the deep sin comes in. So basically, uh, Toma, Rintaro, and Kento are faced with the consequences of, uh, you know, the collateral damage that I've just mentioned. So each of them have their own stories, how they deal with it. And uh, interestingly, so they all share a single foe, Kamen Rider Falchion Amazing Siren. Now, to those of you who might be wondering, why is it Amazing Siren and not the Eternal Phoenix? Now, if you watched the movie, you probably already know this, but just in case anyone else is wondering, in the show, so Disaster actually got a hold of the Mumyoken Kyomu and the Eternal Phoenix. So he basically took the sword and the Wonder Ride book and transformed into Kamen Rider Falchion in order to fight Storius and the Charybdis Megiddo. However, he fails and the Wonder Ride book ends up being devoured by the Charybdis Megiddo. So even with the sword still there, Disaster, or actually, Disaster lost the Wonder Ride book, and therefore, uh, for all intents and purposes, the Wonder Ride book is gone. However, the Amazing Siren appears, and its powers are actually connected to the main story. So, what does the Amazing Siren do? Oh, what kind of effect does it have? Well, that one I think is best for you guys to see for yourselves, because I think that's already a major spoiler if I tell you guys what the Amazing Siren can do. But nonetheless, it is a powerful Wonder Ride book, to say the least. Now, like, I don't mind the Oreo cookie look of Kamen Rider Falchion here, but again, because the Eternal Phoenix Wonder Ride book is no more, so of course there has to be something that uh, replaces it. However, what I find interesting about the Mumyoken Kyomu is that it is the only uh, sword, of all the sacred swords in Kamen Rider Saber, that actually has some sort of criteria for choosing its wielders. Now, if you've seen in the show, swords have been quite passed around from master to pupil, or like in the case of uh, Kurayami, so the wielders are just chosen randomly, I guess. However, there is one common theme for all the wielders of Kyomu. Everyone who transformed into Kamen Rider Falchion, from Bach, yes, even including Disaster, and then uh, the person who transforms into Falchion Amazing Siren in this movie, so they all share a single theme, which is loss. You heard me right. All the users of Mumyoken Kyomu have experienced loss at one point. So let's talk about this aspect for a minute. So allow me to sidetrack for a bit. So in the case of Ba, right, he lost his wife and child. Now, in the case of Disaster, we can say this is kind of a stretch, but at that point, when he decided to fight the Storius and maybe the Charybdis Megiddo, or though basically he's after Storius, so he has lost his sense of self. He doesn't know what to do. He was just a random creation by Storius. He's basically lost his self-worth. He's lost his trust in who he should deem to be his creator. So again, uh, in a way, uh, Disaster lost something. Now, moving on to the wielder of Kyomu in the movie, or in Trio of Deep Sin, they also this person also lost someone important. So kind of similar to Bach, but again, I just noticed it. I'm not sure if it's confirmed by Toei, but uh, at least in one way or another, the wielders of Kyomu have experienced loss, which is why uh, Falchion is the main antagonist of this story for Trio of Deep Sin. So now let's focus on the individual plot points, or individual major plot points of the film. So starting with Toma. So Toma, after the show, has adopted a boy named Riku, who has apparently some sort of trauma, and is unable to speak. Even when Toma tries to talk to him, he doesn't usually respond. And with that said, right? So Toma also has this childhood friend named Mamiya, who, in a way, kind of helps him raise Riku, and Mei also, in her own way, has her own share of helping Riku. So they both help Toma raising the boy and making sure that he's taken care of, which is kind of nice. So moving on to Rintaro. Now, this is not a spoiler, but this has already been revealed in trailers, and we kind of posted about this before already. So, there's a man uh, who appears claiming to be his father. So, uh, you know, this man who claims to be Rintaro's father appears and claims to be on a mission to eliminate all swordsmen. So you heard that right. Uh, in this situation, yeah. So you probably could have guessed that he is Kamen Rider Falchion, Amazing Siren. Now, let's move on to Kento's side of the story. So he is living with his uh, fiance. So they've been living together for a few years already, and they are set to be married. However, there happens to be something off with Kento's fiance. So what happened? So we can see that each of you know these major characters that we meet have something to uh, deal with, and this connects to their deep sin. Again, what kind of sin is it? So this is where I again advise you to watch the film. So now let's move on to the action scenes. Now, obviously, each character here fights Kamen Rider Falchion. However, I did mention earlier that Falchion appears in Rintaro's story. So, is Rintaro's father really the main villain here? Nonetheless, Toma, Rintaro, and Kento fight Falchion. So, for Kamen Rider Espada, so on Kento's side, this is actually what I want to talk about first, because this is when Kento receives, or uses the power up Arabiana Knights, and his sword Raimeken Ikazuchi becomes the Gekko Raimeken Ikazuchi, so granting him his power up. Now, other than the head, almost all of the parts used for Arabiana Nights is, well, actually a reuse of the uh, primitive dragon body. It's repainted, it's retooled. I guess the only difference is the robe is on the right side, because if you look at you know Toma's version, it actually is on both sides, especially with the elemental dragon. But basically, yeah, the entire body armor of Arabiana Knights uh, Espada is just a repaint. I guess they did it just so we can see Kento have a power up, at least a step up from his Wonder Ride book combo. So the Golden Alangina. And yeah, that's basically what he uses to fight against the Falchion. Now, of course, in Nintaro's story, he is able to. We do see him use the Hyoju Senki Wonder Ride book to basically, fight against his father, and well, of course, that's what happens. Now, moving on to Toma's story, because this is going to be where things get a little bit different. Toma, who technically is the most powerful swordsman in that show, does not use any power up forms at all. So let me recap that for you just a little bit. Kento uses, so he gains a new power up just for this movie. So again, so we can see that he has a step up from the Golden Alangina. Rintaro uses the Hyoju Senki once again. No problem, that's his most powerful form. But Toma, who has obtained, the Wonder Story Ride book, does not use it. I guess maybe at the end of the show, so what happens is he basically became God, just like Kamen Rider Guy. But in order to reunite with his friends, Rintaro, Kento, and the rest of the Sword of Logos, so he basically gave up godhood, but he is still, however, able to use, Wonder Ride books. So he's able to he's still at least able to transform into Kamen Rider Saber. We don't know if he can still access the Hauken Cross Saber, but you know, I guess maybe it also vanished when Toma gave up the use of the Wonder Story Ride book. So again, this is just an assumption, but you know, uh, it could probably be that. So he doesn't use any of his power ups. Like the Crimson Dragon, Dragonic Knight, or at the maybe at maximum the Elemental Dragon. If he does not if he no longer has access to either the Wonder Story or the Hauken Cross Saber. So yeah, he's the only one who, ironically, I guess, does not use any power ups against Falchion. Now, this is where I have a crazy theory. So the reason why he doesn't use any kind of power up whatsoever against Falchion is that he has already beaten Falchion once. So during his final duel with Bahat in the show, Toma actually defeats him using simply the Brave Dragon. So I guess he has already that experience fighting against a user of the Mumyoken Kyomu. And well, although the powers are definitely different, but nonetheless, he has beaten a powerful swordsman and basically a powerful ability. We know that Eternal Phoenix grants immortality to its user, but Toma, again, even in his Brave Dragon form, was able to actually deal a fatal injury to Bat that uh, cannot be recovered or cannot be healed with the power of Eternal Phoenix. So I guess maybe even without the power ups, Toma has grown so strong as a swordsman. He has grown strong that he doesn't even need a power up to defeat Falchion. So that's just my own personal theory, but feel free to tell me what you guys think. So as for the endings, well, I guess I don't want to go into details because I'm basically gonna spoil it for uh, you know. But again, go watch the movie and see for yourself. But for me, it's technically a happy ending, but not one that I am personally satisfied. You know, like I do understand that uh, not all endings should be grand, but I really think some parts could have been handled better. So I guess this is where I should, I guess, mention a bit of a minor spoiler. So, uh, specifically on Rintaro's side. So, at the end of Kamen Rider Saber, we do see him and Mei finally become a couple, but during the course of the movie, like, yes, they do mention that they have been a couple for 8 years, but there's no significant progress. There's no significant progress. Even at the end of Rintaro's part, we really see nothing between them. So I really do think that this ship, this relationship, this pairing really wasn't, uh, you know, the best thought out. So either, like for me personally, I would have rather seen May end up with Toma because they've been together from the start, okay? Way longer than Nintaro had been with May. And even actually, even within Toma's story, May actually appears more in that part than Nintaro's. So yeah. Now as for Kento, he doesn't really have much interaction with the others. We do see him in a scene with Rintaro. There's definitely a lot more focus on him and his fiancee, so what they've been going through. So at least for Kento, there's a lot more sense. Toma's story, well, it's fine. It's really fine. Not as, although I do prefer the TV ending because it just felt more satisfying. Now, as for the other characters, so they do appear in the movie, but they don't do anything really. They're just there. And although what's most interesting, I guess, so we do see Ryo Ogami uh, become a teacher. He becomes an elementary school teacher, apparently. Whether he still actually maintains a status as a swordsman of the Sword of Logos is questionable because we just see him as a teacher and not dressed in his typical sort of Logos robes, and he isn't carrying his gigantic sword around. So uh, we really don't know if he still is a swordsman. Now, speaking of the Ogamis, so Sora is mentioned, although at somewhere in the at the end of the story, so Dio kind of looks at the camera, talks to it, and calls Sora. So, of course, in 8 years, so we do expect Sora to have grown up a little bit, although we never actually see Sora on camera, so we just see Dio from Sora's point of view, aka the camera. So, has he actually begun training to become the next Buster, or uh, is Sora just living a normal life as well? I would assume he's a teenager at this point, uh, but we never really see him. So again, we do see the rest of the characters, like then still continues his training. Uh, of course, Yuri and Daishinji still are with uh, Sophia, and Sophia, well, is still Sophia. And the Shindai siblings are still the Shindai siblings. So they're just there. There's no specific development. So they're just there, for Rintaro's plot, aka all riders or all swordsmen must disappear from this world. So that's their only purpose. So again, I do understand that there's a lot focus on uh, the main trio and how they deal with their deep sins. So yeah, in conclusion, Kamen Rider Saber, Tree of Deep Sin. Is it a good movie? Will I recommend it? Well, I personally think it's rather a 3.5 out of 5. Like, it's okay, but not as impactful as the ending of the show. Uh, was it necessary, unnecessary? Like, it's okay. Do you need to watch it? Personally, I don't think so. Again, I already have mentioned a few endings, I guess, or especially with Rintaro. So not really. However, I guess my favorite, if I were to choose, you know, I guess Thomas and Kento's stories have ended quite nicely. Uh, Actually, I personally think Kento has the best ending, or the best executed ending. Toma has more of a better story, in general, but focusing on the ending, Kento's is the best. I personally think that's just me. So yeah, that's how I think of Kamen Rider Saber, a trio of deep sin. So uh, I hope you guys like this review. If you've seen the movie, what do you think about it? If you haven't seen the movie and you still watch this video, well, tell me what you think of my review, I guess. But anyways, thank you so much for watching, and as always, please do leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell so you get the latest from JEFusion. This has been Philip, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.